Our next meeting will take place on Monday, March 4th here at the Senior Center. So what we're going to do, for those who may be new to tonight's meeting, we're going to first rise and pledge allegiance to our flag. We then remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Then our clerk will take attendance to ensure that we have enough people here to conduct business, and then we'll get into this evening's agenda. The items on the agenda are the approval of the minutes, then public comment. We'll hear from our superintendent. Then we'll have subcommittee reports, motions and resolutions, personal privilege, and then there will be a vote to go into executive session after our regular meeting, and then we'll move adjournment. So if there's no questions, I'd ask everyone to please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. We'll now have our clerk call the roll. Here.
Ms. Bielski? Here. Ms. Bonanno? Here. Mr. Drummond? Here. Mr. Froyo? Here. Mr. Iadino? Here. Ms. Leon? Mr. McCarthy? Here. Ms. Fedahora? Here. Superintendent O'Terry?
Here.
Student Representative Stump? Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum sufficient to conduct business. The first item, again, is we're going to consider approving our minutes from January 7th, 2019. I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any discussion? Chair has none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Okay, we're now at item number 2, which is public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the school committee. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record, and please keep your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. Before we begin, I just want to ask if Mr. Hammersley is in the back. Okay, let's open public comment. The reason I'm asking, I can't see the microphones up here for some reason. So let's open public comment. Anybody wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Just going to make sure the mic's on. Please. Okay. Yep. Okay, while we're waiting for her, let's try and dispense with some other business we may have. Let's see if there's anything under here, Superintendent, that if there's no objection, let's go to subcommittee reports. Mr. Iavino, do you want to give a quick update while we're waiting to figure out these mics?
Total enrollment as of Friday was 6,718 students. It's an increase of 85 since the start of the school year, but we are 37 fewer students than we were last year at this time. All right. So enrollment continues to be at a steady but even pace.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Iavino? If not, we'll place that on file. Let's hear from Ms. Beardsley if she wants to provide an update on social, emotional, and physical well-being ad hoc subcommittee.
Sure. We met twice in January, and the first meeting, thank you, Mr. Chair, sorry. About 20 parents came out to talk about recess and possibly extending it, as well as looking into recess now, and just holistically just talking about what it is and what we want to
Okay.
And then we had two presentations. The Brown University came, and their Center for Mindfulness, and they came and talked about programs that they have for teachers, students, and professional development. And she was talking about how studies have shown that students that have more mindfulness have more attention in school and are on task more. And we wanted to see if educators are interested and try to get funding through grants. And then Boston versus Bullies, which Mr. Conifrey had spoken about, we had them come. They were very gracious, and they came and gave a presentation about their free program that trains teachers and has tons of materials for schools. So we want to get the information out to the appropriate staff, and then hopefully Malden can take advantage of it.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Bordenauer, just try to speak loudly until we figure out the mics.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really quick, Ms. Beasley, regarding the recess meeting that you and Mrs. Spatafora had conducted, what were some of the concerns that the parents had regarding recess? If you want to just summarize it, I don't know if there's a lot. And then secondly, when do you expect to get the results back from the survey? Will it be the next school committee meeting or sometime in the spring, summer? Or are you looking to make a modification to recess next school year?
Good questions, Ms. Bordenauer. So I would love, apparently, I'm not someone who does surveys very often, but I've had a lot of help from parents, which has been great. But I guess the first week is when you get the most people back for your surveys, so I don't think it'll be more than a month. But then we need to look at it, so I'll have to talk to the superintendent and find out, and Mr. McCarthy and Ms. Spatafora. Do you want to talk about these two are also there. The issues with recess, as we're talking about, is 15 minutes at 3 of the schools is all they have. 30 minutes at the extended day schools. And so just thinking about 5, 6, 7-year-olds having 15 minutes is not ideal. And then we've also been talking about a policy. So we're going to try to make sure that recess is not taken away ever, except for things that are inappropriate behavior at recess. We've also talked about just the use of space and getting things, more materials to help the kids. And
You want anything, Ms. Spatafora?
Concerns with parents right now, before we even try to extend, is really the quality of recess. So what are the kids doing when they are out on the playground? Is there equipment for them to play on? A lot of concerns have been no balls being able to be used, can't go on certain equipment. So a lot of the students are really kind of meandering around. So trying to get the educators to guide more during recess and get games going, as well as when we have indoor recess, the quality of the indoor recess during inclement weather, just making sure that the kids the time that they're receiving is beneficial and really being used to the best of their ability.
All right, let's see if our superintendent wants to add anything.
Okay. No, I know that we're working with the subcommittee that is dealing with this, and we're also in coordinated talks with both the union and also recess is part of the collective bargaining agreement for educators. So we need to assess that as well as the overall impact on the school day, making sure that we are adhering to state mandates on our time on learning as well. So it's a very coordinated effort on a number of fronts.
Okay. Any further questions? Ms. Bordenauer?
I do have a follow-up question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So if the 15 minutes if we do approve and it gets extended to 30 minutes, do we know, I'm not sure if we're that far into the process yet, but do we know where we cut off the other 15 minutes from? No, you haven't cut off, right?
good question. We're not trying to extend the school day. That's like one thing.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean,
No, I know, the
All right, hearing none. Thank you for the update. No action required this evening, right? Okay. Okay, we have a technician on the way. So what else can we dispense with, Superintendent? Do you want to try and do any of the items on there? You want to get to public comment even though the mic's not? All right. So ladies and gentlemen, obviously we're having a problem with our mics, and we were trying to delay it so we could have the folks here be able to be heard and recorded. But short of that, we do want to get you up here. I know we have some students, and I know you have a lot of homework to get to, so we're just going to improvise. Just when you approach the microphone, try to speak up loudly, and we'll do the best we can until we can get this resolved. So again, let's get back to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the school committee. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record and try to keep your remarks to a minimum so everybody has an opportunity to address us. I want to first reach out. If there are students that want to address the school committee, we'd ask you to approach the podium now. I don't know if there's a spokesperson or... All right, great. All right, step right up. Let's see your names first.
My name is Leonard Page.
Okay, welcome. Do you want to introduce your colleagues or?
Well, I only know two of them. Mike Smith and
All right. Why don't you step right up and let's hear from all of you. What's that?
They're separate.
Okay. All right, take it away.
So it is true that it feels like to me like there are kind of small recess because it is quite small, but it is like enough to have fun at least. But the quality of the recess, like the other classes get balls and things, but like most people just play tag. And indoor recess is kind of cooped up and like where everybody in the room is kind of chaotic. So indoor recess is kind of like, I don't really like it, but it is quite fun to take a break from studies and have recess and have lunch and everything. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good job. All right. Good evening.
My name is Brenda O'Shaughnessy. I live on 7th House Street and I'm a 4th grader.
Okay, welcome.
At my school we have extended day, so we have 7:30 out of school, 7:45 to 3:30, and we are sitting down for 7 hours. Now that they get into the colder months, we basically sitting down for the whole day,
Mhm.
and we should probably, when it is warm enough, we should have extended recess, more to 45 minutes.
Okay.
Because at my school there are lots of kids that are fidgety in my grade, and I'm thinking that we should, like me, I think that pressure helps your brain, like it also helps with your emotions, and the pressure is good. And when it is snowy or rainy outside or windy, we should have some indoor alternatives, like maybe so get so you're not inside on our computers while we're doing something that like you can run where you can still run around.
Okay. All right, well said. Thank you very much. All right. Good evening. Take your time, Mr. Beardsley. Yep. That's okay. Feel free to come back if you want. We'll save a spot for you, okay?
Hi, I'm Agnes Smith of 1640 Road. During recess, it's short, only 15 minutes. And it's long enough to have fun. But then like the other two parts of the day, we're just sort of cooped up and learning. And I think it should be extended a bit to like 15 minutes for like 20 or 25 minutes. During our recess, my class, we really don't have anything to play with. We don't have any board games. And everybody's basically crazy. Everyone's shouting, everybody's walking around the room. And that's all I have to say.
You did a good job. Thank you. Oh,
Hello. Janelle Davids, 3 Sheridan Street, Ward 2.
welcome.
Thank you. I actually wasn't going to speak, but then I was very inspired by all the kids who showed up and did stuff, so thank you guys for doing that. I do have new involvement in the public schools through the BB, and I was shocked to understand that they only have 15 minutes of recess during their day, 2 of which is going down, 2 of which is coming back, half of which is trying to eat. Obviously, I think, kids need more time to get energy out, to get their emotions out, to socialize, to, grow.
Okay, I think we have the mics back. Let's see if this works.
Hi, my name is Carrie Lalonde. This is my son Elliot, and I have a daughter
Pleasure.
in a Forestdale school. And I just wanted to make it known that I think see, this little guy gets 10 minutes to run around each day. I think that's absurd. So it's 15 minutes. They take a few minutes to get there. They have to stand and wait until everyone can calm down before they can move from the lunchroom to the recess. And if that takes 10 minutes to calm down, that's recess time that they lost. So when you say 15 minutes, it should be no less than 30 because you're missing so much time. It's just wasted. So maybe they'll get 5 minutes. This one said last year the balls were taken away because the kids were playing unsafe, and they were never given back. So that was last year's school. Now we're halfway through this school. And so she's of the age where they just stand around and talk. We can't even count those 10 minutes as physical activity. And the new recommendations from the government say 60 minutes a day. So we're having gym once a week. Maybe we need gym more often, but the 10 minutes a day is not gonna cut it. I'm having them walk home from school because when I get home, we do a workout video, but it's impossible. At school, they should have that release time, and I think it's insane not to. If I was a teacher, I would be pushing for this. And I would like to take this one more minute to say, if we're gonna talk about their health, we should talk about the food at the school. I could come back on a different day to talk about that, I guess, but I'm a health coach. I helped write the wellness policy for the city with Omar, who was in charge of the food program here, and a couple of other people. And my own principal did not know about the wellness policy. So we had to write this wellness policy, have you guys approve it, and none of our principal didn't even know that it existed. And so the teachers, this is another point, I'm rambling now, but the teachers were taking recess away as punishment for the kids this year. And I went to the principal and I said, I wrote the wellness policy, that's not allowed. You have to think of a different way to punish the kids because they need those 10 precious minutes. And he didn't know about the wellness policy. He said he had his own policy that it's not allowed, you can't take recess away. So he spoke to the teachers. It happened again. They just didn't listen to him. And then he spoke to them again, and it hasn't happened in about a couple months. But, they can't play with balls. There's not really any running around. You can't run. There's a rule against running. They can't go on the field. They're on cement sidewalks. There's no chalk to make hopscotch. We need to be more creative. We can't just say, go outside for 10 minutes and we'll call that activity. It's not, okay?
Thank you.
But I talked to Omar about the food. He made all sorts of promises to change and make it healthier, get ID cards for the kids so that lunch lines would go faster. He promised a traveling salad bar. None of that came to fruition this year. And I wanted to point out that Boston fired them last year and got a fresh organic company to come in and do the food. So I would really please encourage you to look at what Boston did, because these people that we have here feeding our children are feeding them garbage. It's popcorn chicken and nachos and pizza, things that I wouldn't serve to my own children. So, there's a multitude of health improvements we could make, recess and food. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Hi, I'm Carrie Percival. I live at 4 Seaview Ave.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having this public comment time about recess. I have two children, one 6 and 9. My 6-year-old is in kindergarten, and I've just been very concerned that the high academic standards that are the goals for our kids are not developmentally appropriate in terms of the schedule of the school day. So expecting a 5.5 or 6-year-old to sit still all day, or even move around the room in stations, does not really honor the developmental stage of someone who's 6 years old. I have here the policy of the American Academy of Pediatrics, came out 6 years ago, December 2012. They put this out as the crucial role of recess in school and the benefits of recess for the whole child. And I'm not going to go over every part of this. I just wanted to point out one part about the duration and timing of recess, that for lunchtime recess, they found that when children and students have recess after lunch, then there's a lot more food waste during lunchtime. But if they have recess before lunch, that the children actually have an appetite because they've been running around. The other thing is that in schools that have the highest academic achievement internationally, for example, like Finland, Japan, Scandinavian countries, they have the practice of having 10 to 15-minute breaks every hour, based on the fact that attention spans begin to wane after 40 to 50 minutes of intense instruction. Nobody can pay attention after 40 to 50 minutes of instruction. And when I went to teacher preparation master's and got my master's degree as a teacher, it was very clear, we were made to understand that as a rule of thumb, that kids couldn't listen to you after their age of minutes had gone by. So if the kids are 6 years old, you can talk to them for 6 minutes. That's all you get. And then they need something to do. And same for, if you're talking to 12-year-olds, you have about 12 minutes of their attention, and then you got to give them something to do. But on top of that, as a middle school teacher, and I've been a substitute, I first taught full-time before the recesses got so squeezed, before the Common Core has really squeezed them. And when I came back in as a substitute recently, the students just seemed very angry, like I'd never seen anything like that. They were very angry and they were very unhappy. And what are we doing to our kids if we can't take care of their basic human developmental needs and reflect that in the school day schedule? It's imperative. It's absolutely imperative that we respect their developmental needs. And so I have this to share with you. And just finally, I want to point out a case study that was done, you've probably heard of, in Texas. They wanted to help out children with their social, emotional, and physical well-being. So they started having 15-minute recesses 4 times a day. And the teachers were terrified they wouldn't be able to get through the curriculum. But instead, what they found out was that their students actually could solve problems better and more independently and weren't so clingy and needing tons of attention because they had time to go outside, digest what they were learning, develop their own independent skills, and come back in refreshed and ready to learn. And I know that 15 minutes every hour is not on the table here, but it's aspirational, and it's around the world where people take education seriously and get real results for their children and respect their children's developmental needs and think of joy as part of what small children deserve in their school day is joy and happiness.
Okay, so do you want to leave that with us?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll leave that with you.
Right here to Mr.
Yep.
Shirley? Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
If you don't mind.
Again, we just ask you to keep your remarks short so we can get to as many people as possible.
Sure. I'm Heidi Schmidt. I live at 32 Concord Street, mom of Len Page, 10's Linden. The reason why I'm up here is because I think that recess allows for social and emotional development, and you have to look at the person as a whole. They have to have squabbles on the playground in order to figure out how to work through conflict. They can't just be taught to do multiplication and reading and writing and not figure out how that happens. What I understand is that besides taking away recess as a punishment, recess happens or lunch happens at times where it isn't actually where kids really are hungry. 10:30 in the morning, I'm not ready to eat lunch, for example. I forgot which school it was. The thing that I'm interested in is finding out the quality of play. So if they have balls and jump ropes and chalk and things that they can do outside, if we can paint the playground, because I remember when Len was at Ferryway, he wasn't allowed to actually be on the playground equipment, and he was in kindergarten, and that would have been great for him to be able to muscles, climbing, but they wouldn't let him, and they relegated him to the pavement. So I'm for like a golden pause. It's a kind of a practicing mindfulness yoga type of idea, is that you have a break, but that break doesn't get taken away from how long it takes for you to line up or how long it takes you to get back. It allows them to be themselves and work out conflict and work on games that can model conflict and conflict resolution. And they can actually be themselves and contribute. So even if the kids were recruited to do painting of hopscotch or other types of games that could be worked out in imagination on pavement, it doesn't cost a lot. It just means that somebody has to kind of figure out what they can use. The balls shouldn't be taken away just because they can't figure out how to deal with them properly. Somebody needs to kind of, insert themselves in that. So those are the things that, if they need parents to raise money to paint pavement or get people to paint pavement, things like that. I want to know that we can have more recess, but I also want to know what we can do as parents to meet this halfway.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kenya Avant, and I live at 500 Broadway in Malden.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. So I am a Malden public school parent of 2 children, one in kindergarten and one in first grade at the Linden STEAM Academy. I didn't come here to speak about recess, but I will put in my 2 cents. And that is just when my eldest enrolled in kindergarten, I was concerned about recess. I spoke with the assistant principal at her school, and was told that, yes, it's not the greatest, we'll work on it. But after that conversation, I actually bought supplies to share with the teacher of my child's school, skippets, and I was told that they could not have skippets, so I sent them back to Amazon. I bought chalk, and within 3 weeks, I was told that they were no longer allowed to play with chalk. So it's an issue, and there are parents who are actively trying to resolve it for their children, and I'm hoping the school committee can address it.
Thank you.
My second concern is that as a Linden parent and a parent who sits on the governing board at the Linden STEAM Academy, I am a parent representative. As part of my charge, I'm attempting to get parents together so that we can talk about, what's of concern for them at the school, what they'd like to see going forward, and make sure that they're able to give their input in the school's school improvement plan. The issue I'm having is trying to get access to the school during non-school hours so that it would not require that parents or community members be inside the school when children are also present. So I know that wouldn't be ideal since you would need to have all the staff quarried, not the staff, but you need to have all parents and community members quarried. So we're looking for an hour and a half just to meet as parents, and we've been unable to get permission to do so. So I would put that again before school committee if that's something you can, maybe there's a policy as to why we can't have that meeting or some other reason, but if you can provide us with that access, that would be ideal. And thirdly, the reason I came tonight was to speak about the Gifted and Talented program that exists in Malden Public Schools and is currently housed at the Linden STEAM Academy. I have several concerns about the program. Writ large, I think my concern is that, at least at face value, there seems to be a lack of transparency. So there's lack of transparency around who's selected for the program, whether or not students can move into the program halfway through the year or, in third grade instead of first grade. This prior year, in fact, I didn't know that the program existed. As a parent of a kindergartner moving into first grade when the program began, I had no idea that this program existed at my child's school. And I think that that is something that we should take to heart and consider who has access and who does not have access to this resource. That aside, I guess I'm just going to list some of my main issues. One was the lack of transparency. The second was the lack of communication, which I spoke about. The other is what I believe is a failure of the Gifted and Talented program to represent the diverse demographic profiles of Malden and those who live in the Malden public school community. Another issue or concern I have with the program is the age at which children are invited into the Gifted and Talented program. Beginning a Gifted and Talented program at first grade, research shows is too young. We have many English learners in the Malden public school system who may not be invited into the program merely because they have not yet obtained English proficiency. It's just too young. On top of that, there appears to be a very subjective process by which children are selected to participate in the Gifted and Talented program. We know that things exist such as as implicit bias, so that teachers who are looking at two very similar students may suggest that one move into the program and one not. This bias exists on measures such as gender, such as race, such as ethnicity, such as the way one speaks. And this is something that we have to be cognizant of and build policies and practice and regulations to make sure that that implicit bias does not play out in who we're selecting for a program and who we're denying access to. Not completely done. But in short, I suppose, I'm just concerned that the program as it exists is not completely equitable. I would ask school committee to form a subcommittee or a team of both parents, community members, and educators to look deeply and thoroughly at the existing AEAP or Gifted and Talented program to ensure that no students are being left behind, to ensure that this existing program is not another name for tracking, that we have those who are here and those who are here and those who are here. I think that would be an egregious misstep, I guess, and certainly a step in the wrong direction. So I would ask that a team be put together and a decision be made as to whether or not to continue this program, that it be made by the end of May of this year, so that going into the next year, either we can say, based upon the data and the evidence that we've collected, this is a program that works effectively, efficiently, and for the appropriate people, or this is not something that we want to endorse as, Malden school committee members who want to sleep at night, knowing that no child is being unjustly denied access, and that we're not exacerbating achievement or, gaps or, performance gaps in that way.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee? Do so now.
My name is Ryan Beardsley, and from 166 Bainbridge Street, and I think that the teachers at our school, when they get to choose whether we go outside or not, depending on the weather, and they could it could be like 32 degrees, and they're like, no, we're not going outside because it's 32 degrees out. But we bring coats in, and they make us wear those outside. So why don't they let us go outside to recess if they make us wear them go outside when we need to go home?
Pretty good. All right. Anybody else wishing to address the school
Got right
committee?
up here.
Ms. Andrews?
Hi, I'm Marilyn Andrews. I live at 83 Cleveland Street in Malden, in the Linden part of Malden. I come as a teacher and a parent. My boys are 19 and 16. One has finished Malden High. And I guess I look at this from the lens of a teacher and also an advocate, too. I look at schools and I see that they build a foundation for our community. These are our future leaders, maybe our mayor, maybe our superintendent. You know what I'm saying. But, and I think all schools are known for building routines. So and it's the times are out. What's academics? You start with reading, you go into math or whatever. But we also need, in the routine, time to be people, time to be individuals. They need downtime. We need downtime. You sit in a meeting like this, you're here for an hour and a half, 2 hours, you need a couple minutes to walk away and kind of look over your notes or whatever. They need the exact same thing. And as somebody said previously, the attention span goes to the age that they are at. So it's 6 years, it's 6 minutes. And they need time just to digest the skills that they've been taught, especially if they've gone from English to math. Usually it's 2 classes and then recess. A 15-minute recess is not enough. They also need time to unwind. They need time to build social skills, because when we go out in the workforce, it's not, there's Johnny, he got 5 A's, and there's Susie, she was in the gifted program or high honors or whatever. We look at what social skills they bring to the workforce too. And we're in a day and age right now, which a lot of parents can confess, is they're learning to relate to a machine or to the phone. And, I'm guilty just as much as checking everything on my phone way too much. But they need time to build those social skills. And most importantly, I feel they need time to laugh. And as somebody else said earlier, they need joy. They need the whole spectrum of being a person. And they need to be able to make those connections. I look back now in my 50s, and I go to my high school reunions, or I go back to my town, and I go back and kind of sort of commiserate with people I grew up with, because I had those connections. And some of those were built in the playground. Some of those were built by those disagreements, and you never want to talk to that kid again. And then 10 minutes later, the blood is gone, and you're fine, and everything's over. But that's how, and then you grow, and you go into the workplace. You're not fist fighting, but you learn how to deal with conflict resolution. So you taught that in class. I know there's a lot. I have to commend Malden, because I work as an advocate, and I visit a lot of communities, and Malden does do a lot. And I have a bias, and I'm not just saying it, I really feel it. But I think the other piece to it, too, as an advocate, the majority of my kids are mental health kids. Why? Because I just feel sad for them. A lot of it is just because it's what's in the chemical imbalance in their brain. It's not their fault. It's not something that they did bad. And really, for these kids especially, they need time to have downtime, but all kids do, because several kids in my caseload, sadly so, I have a 5th grader who can't go to school, hides under a tent. Why? He's a strong learner, but there's such anxiety, and there's not enough downtime. It's a good school system, but 15 minutes is not enough. Even to go from place to place, and as we, carrying our bag to go to the next meeting or whatever we have to do, you have time to digest. They don't. And I realize, with respect to the process, it's not something that just happens like this. And I know everybody's heart here is in it, but I think it's so important. I worry more about the kids with mental health, but sometimes kids with mental health, it's triggered in high school. Kids that want to be perfectionists. We look at, it's so prevalent in this society too, the suicide ideation. And I know it may sound like a stretch, but it's not. It's building that foundation, that skill, and who we are. I mean, I look back at my routine, and some of my routine is I carry a list in my pocket. Why do I carry a list in my pocket? Because my father did, and that's what we did in school. I taught in Catholic school, that's what you did. So it's just ingrained. So I think that's to it. We have to say, here's English, here's math, here's your recess. All right, here's 10 minutes to put your books together, figure things out. This is what you learned. This is what you're doing to prepare next. Now here's time to go outside and play and unwind. And honestly, from a teacher's perspective, teachers work very hard for the money. And we know they put their heart and soul in it. But they also need that time to recalibrate and say, okay, I just worked with Johnny and Susie, and they're having difficulty. And so they can work with each other and kind of work that out. But I think sometimes we push so hard as a society that this is the hard piece. I think also not having that recess or just that downtime, you lose perspective. And it's a sense of self-esteem. I think kids build anxiety. I see a lot of kids that are very perfectionistic. Why? Because they got to get that A. They got to make sure they're on top of their game. And sometimes on top of your game doesn't have to be an A. You know, I look at the effective progress regulation in Massachusetts, and it's basically, you know, academics is MCAS, but it's also social and emotional. And there are kids that are on IEPs, 504s, because socially and emotionally, they have it academically, but they can't access the learning because there's a block there, whether it's trauma or any kind of piece that has hurt them along the way. So, as always, I thank you for your time, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. All right, anybody else wishing to address the school committee?
Hi. My name is Karen Cologne-Hayes. I'm a Malden resident, and I am a parent of 3 girls. I'm going to read from this because I'm not as brave as these kids today, and I want to make sure I get everything out. So, I'm a parent of 3 girls that have attended or currently attending the Malden Public Schools. I'm a firm believer and an advocate for our public schools, and I have full faith in our teachers and our staff to provide an education equal to any private or charter school. With that in mind, I'm here to talk about the school recess. It's time we reimagine recess as a crucial part of the school day. I know that there have been ongoing discussions on this topic, so I'm not going to educate here, but I'm here to advocate. We all know that the health and well-being of children improves by increasing opportunities for physical activity and safe, healthy, unstructured play. Developing social skills has become a key focus in schools, and what better way to reinforce and practice these skills than on the playground? I know that teachers believe this too and recognize that it makes for a better learning atmosphere in class. However, with all the things that schools and teachers are now expected to do, it's not surprising that recess time gets sacrificed. Not only in the amount of time for recess they receive, but by using recess as a consequence for poor behavior. Despite the fact that there are ordinances drafted specifically that state you cannot take recess time away as a punishment, we know firsthand from reports by children, parents, and teachers that there's a disparity among teachers and schools. I realize it's hard to just say you can't use recess as a consequence without having a plan. What can we do to help children make good choices in the first place? How can we give teachers other tools to use instead of taking recess away? These are the questions that we should be focusing on. We can work together and involve Malden's Promise, who provides free trainings to develop and hopefully engage children in this critical thinking and problem solving with the adults. I'm here to offer my help in working with the administration to address this. Thank you again for this time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee?
Hi, Jeff Taylor, at 57 Mount Vernon Street. I have 2 daughters at the Linden STEAM Academy, 1 more that will be coming in a few years from now. So I want to speak in favor of extending recess. I think that having only 1 time even for recess isn't allowing our children enough time to digest all the information that they're being given. They're being asked to sit for far too long of a period of time and being given too much information for them to be able to absorb it without any breaks in between. I'd like to see a second recess time. It really seems optimum for me. I think we can rework transitions between classes to be able to create some more time without having to extend the school day. I know there'd be the union contracts, so that wouldn't be a possible thing, but I know that within the existing confines of the school day, we can rework things so that we create more time. A lot of schools have done that in other cities I've read about to some great success. So I definitely would love to see more than one recess time, or at least having an extended recess period to give them kind of a full rest. My daughter's in the 6th grade now, is her 2nd year where she doesn't even get 15 minutes. And I'm not talking about the amount of time it takes to get from the class to the recess area and back. The full 15, she never doesn't even start with 15 minutes, including that time. They said it was something with the scheduling of her particular class last year, and that she wouldn't be forever. You know, she would get back on the regular track. But now, again, this year, her class, again, is stuck with not even starting with 15 minutes. So I'm wondering if that's just going to be where she's at. She's in the class that doesn't get a full 15 minutes to even start with. Is that how it's going to play out until she gets to the high school? I don't think we're doing our best for our kids. We're asking a lot from them, and we're not giving them the tools they need to succeed. I think we can do better for them.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. And just one quick second point, I'm sorry. My sixth grader, she doesn't have anywhere to put her feminine hygiene products in the bathrooms when she's done, and that's completely unacceptable to me. I shouldn't have to stand here and say that.
Good evening. My name's Amy Friedman. I live at 8 Marvin Street here in Malden. I have 2 children at BB School. One's an 8th grader and one's in the PACE classroom. He's a 1st grader, but he's in the PACE classroom with Mrs. Brennan. I have 3 things I'd like to say. 2 relate to the last school board meeting. There was a review of Superintendent O'Terry that was discussed at that time. We moved here from Nebraska about 1.5 years ago. We had difficulty and problems associated with registering our children. Superintendent O'Terry was immediately on the situation and resolving our problems. Last week, when there was snow and ice in the bus lane for the special ed students at BB, I emailed Superintendent O'Terry. Again, immediately he was on the case, and that snow and ice was gone within about 2 hours. So I want to speak to his responsiveness to me and my children. I've volunteered now at BB School for about 3 weeks. I spend 2 days a week there in the library. I'm concerned that our libraries aren't open more for our students. And I'm concerned that there's not more parents volunteering. So I would really encourage the principals at the various schools to get out the word. I waited until there was a meeting that the principal at BB organized asking for parent volunteers. I wish I wouldn't have waited. I wish I would have gone in and said sooner, what can I do to help? So I've learned so much about the school and the resources and the limitations that the teachers and principals deal with by being there. And I would encourage parents to go in and volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee?
Hello, my name is Jackie Ecker. I live at 58 Lanark Road here in Malden. I have a 5th grader at Forestdale. He was going to come with me tonight to talk about recess, and he was really excited for it. Unfortunately, he has a ton of homework, so he's home doing his homework. But he wanted me to speak on his behalf and talk about how important it is for him to have more than 15 minutes of recess a day. So my son's name is Christopher. Something unique to Christopher that I haven't really seen talked about tonight is anxiety. My son has anxiety. He's actually on an IEP now, but up until this past year, he was not. And recess is something that takes the anxiety level from here to here. And I bet if I were to turn around and do a show of hands, there'd be a lot of parents who understand exactly what I'm talking about. Anxiety creates behavioral issues. It makes children cry. They have repetitive issues. My son rips out his eyelashes. He is someone who has also been diagnosed with ADHD, and a lot of kids who have anxiety and just need a little bit of recess are being diagnosed with ADHD, so instead of recess, they're getting medication.
So we have a generation of children that we're creating anxious and overly medicated situations for when all they really need is a little more recess. I have a feeling, and there are studies on this. School districts that have increased their recess time have seen a lower incidence of anxiety-related issues and also with a lower amounts of ADHD. So it's such a no-brainer. Let's try not to medicate our children if we don't have to, and let's just try to give them a little more recess. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the committee?
Hi, my name is Eden Garhart-Smith. I live at 16 Corey Road. I just want to agree with the assessment of more recess, but I also want to say, and I don't think anybody's brought this up, is after school, I don't think has access to the fields. And for a full-time working mom and a working dad, it would be nice that the kids who are in after school, I've had classes that Atticus has been in where the teacher does try to do movement through the day, but he has a 15-minute recess. Like if that can be also more outside time and after school would be appreciated, because I get them and it's 6 o'clock and it's dark out, especially during this time of the year. So, and it's the warmest part of the day is during the day and after school time. So if there's any way that can be looked into and addressed, I don't know if that's the purview of the school committee, but that would be appreciated. Also, a fellow parent, Kenya Avant, was up here earlier, and I just wanted to reiterate the AEAP program. I have real issues with it starting so young, and I wanted to read like a paragraph or two from a book. I highly recommend it. It's called Nurture Shock. It's not written by me. It's P.O. Brosnan and Ashley Merriman. And it talks about, it says, the name of the chapter is The Search for Intelligent Life in Kindergarten. It says, real intellectual development does not fit in nicely round bell curves. It's filled with sharp spikes in growth and rough setbacks that have to be overcome. We need to question why this idea of picking smart children early even appeals to us. We set the system up to make sure natural talent is discovered and nurtured. Instead, the system is failing a majority of the kids, and a lot of natural talent is being screened out. It may sound trite to ask, what about the late bloomers? But in terms of truly superior cognitive development, the neuroscience suggests that later may be the optimal rate of development. It's not as if society needs to wait forever for these later developers to bloom. The system of screening children would be significantly more effective if we simply waited until the end of second grade to test them. I'll leave it at that, but I would strongly advocate, and I also am in agreement with Kenya, I would really appreciate it if it was done by this year, because my son, Atticus, deals with a class size of 27 still, and the gifted program has 23, which isn't a huge significance compared to where he was in the first grade being at 27, and the gifted program being at 19. But I heard the first grade class sizes were 27, 26 in the regular, but meanwhile the gifted program has 16, and that is just not fair, especially when we know full fact that for the younger grades like first and second, it is not acceptable to be testing them that young, that it excludes kids that are still smart or whatever you want to use, whatever terminology. Atticus did very well on the MCAS. He got above whatever in the blue section on the math test. Only 13 kids in the third grade made it that high in Linden. So that was excellent. And that doesn't qualify him as gifted in any way. I mean, it's just one test, and I don't mean to bear any huge merit on it. But it just says that who knows where kids are, and they vary all over. And I just don't think it's right to test them in first and second grade. And then you're giving kids larger class sizes, and there's no real merit behind it. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee? Can do so now. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close that part of the meeting. We'll go over to our superintendent for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time, the
I'd
fairways.
ask, if I could, Superintendent, everybody, if you could just wait 1 minute, please, if you just have a moment, because Superintendent's about to make a presentation that I think everybody in this room and everybody in this city is going to be very proud of. So if you could just hang in there just 1 more minute. we would appreciate it. And in speaking with the student, we were going to have her go first, but she wanted to make sure that the public and the kids had an opportunity to speak first. So please, School Superintendent, just hang in there one more minute.
Okay, at this time, we would like to acknowledge Malden High School senior Angela Tejada Solis was nominated by Congresswoman Catherine Clark for an appointment at West Point. But that's just the first part of the great news. The, I think, more timely and unique part to this is that she also received an invitation from Congresswoman Clark to attend tomorrow night's State of the Union address down in Washington, D.C. as Catherine Clark's personal guest. So at this time, we'd like to invite Angela and Principal Mastrangelo to the podium.
Bravo. All right, good evening. Tell us, how do you feel?
I'm just really excited and kind of blessed for this opportunity because I know it doesn't happen a lot. I'm just so grateful that everything I've been working for, these past 4 years is, paying off and coming back to me in a really good way.
So when do you leave? And
I leave tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm going to go to the Smithsonian, and then I'm not really sure what it is, but Nancy Pelosi's hosting something, and I'm going to tag. I'm going to tag along with Congresswoman Clark right before the State of the Union address, and then, yeah. That's
okay. So everybody be looking for her tomorrow night, all right?
At this time, I think Mayor Christensen, on behalf of the city, would like to read a citation. We'll make a presentation and hopefully do a picture up here.
So yes, Angela, obviously we are just so thrilled and proud of what you have achieved. I will not forget Mr. Mastrangelo calling the office, telling me, he had news that I would want to stop what I'm doing to hear. And I said, what's the size of the grant you got? And he said, this is even better, and it is. So on behalf of all of us, we drafted this citation in your honor, and it reads as follows. On this day, the city of Malden congratulates Angela Tejada Solis for being invited by Congresswoman Catherine Clark to be her guest at the 2019 State of the Union address in Washington, D.C. As one of Malden High School's finest students, Angela leads by example with her academic achievements, strong leadership skills, and her ability to make a difference. From captain of this year's successful girls soccer team and active member of the Malden Youth Civics Council to president of both the Malden High School Red Cross Club and Robotic Club, she approaches all that she does with great enthusiasm and determination. Again, we congratulate her on this honor from Congresswoman Clark and thank her for making Malden proud.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you, Mayor
So at this
Christensen.
time, we're going to be in a brief recess so we can present the citation formally to Angela.
Thank you.
No doubt, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor
One thing left to
Christensen.
do now, get into West
I
Point.
know.
Congratulations
Thank
again.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, school committee's back in session. Let's get back to our superintendent for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, congratulations to Angela. I know she'll represent Malden very well down in Washington. At this time, the Ferryway 6th graders will be going to Nature's Classroom at the Camp Cody site in Freedom, New Hampshire on a field trip April 29th through May 3rd. I'd like to call upon Principal Abdel Sepulveda and his team at the podium to provide some more details about this.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Christensen. Good evening, Superintendent Oteri and members of the school committee. And I just want to add one thought to the declaration. Angela went to Ferryway from K through 8.
All right.
Yeah, so we need to add that. So we'll amend the...
Must have been a science teacher in 6th grade.
Absolutely. And just so that you know, she also volunteered last year with our 8th graders towards the end of the school year. So congratulations, we're proud of you. Like Mr. Oteri said, we are asking your permission to attend Nature's Classroom. We are going to be going to Camp Cody in New Hampshire on from April 29th to May 3rd. I believe if you don't have the brochure, we have extra copies here, but we have been there before last year. We have done fundraising. We have teachers that are volunteering to go. We have like 3 of them here, and our students that attended last year came back raving about it. So I don't know if you would like to hear from them. So we have Julia, we have Robert and Zyla. Friends, would you like to say something about why the school committee should let us go? Robert, you are not shy.
Hi, my name is Roberto. We should let the 6th graders go again because we were active, we were outside every day, and we got back to our cabins, and we got to sleep a lot, and we got to eat a lot.
All right. Anybody else want to add to that?
And Julia?
You want us to get to the vote? All right.
That would be great.
Let's see. So obviously you recommend superintendent?
Yes, as we have all these nature classroom trips, I find them that our students gain a lot more than just the scientific knowledge. I think the team building, the skill building, but also seeing the practice out in the field of what you're learning in the classroom is invaluable, and I think that it translates to a lot of great things, including interest in ecology, environmental sciences, as well as possible careers down the road in that. They get exposed to a number of things, so I'm completely in support of this.
All right, there you have it. Let's take some questions. Mr. Iavino.
I was just ready to make a motion.
Oh, yeah, let's get it up on the floor then properly. So motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Now let's take some questions. Any questions of the members? Everybody clear on the motion? Ms. Spatafora.
Just one quick question. Will there be other schools in attendance at Camp Cody, or will it strictly be Ferryway there during those dates?
There will be another school. We went with the same school that we attended last year. It was a group of 6th graders.
Can we just have you come to the mic, please?
It is a group of 6th grade students from Milton, New Hampshire.
Okay.
So I got word that the same school will be coming back with us again. So at count, I believe we have about 52 students. They're a little bit smaller. They had about 40 students, but we're complete separate residents, but cafeteria and classes, they intermingle with each other, as well as transition time, but then we go back to our own separate quarters with our own individual teachers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Spatafora. We typically ask the students, is there anything that you would change after your experience, or would you keep it exactly they are going? Yeah, but in talking with your colleagues, the ones that went, is there anything that you've heard that they would change? Keep it exactly the way it is? Yeah. Okay. All right, well, there you have it, everyone. So motion's been made. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Carries unanimously. Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Back to our school superintendent.
Sure, moving along, the Malden High School Band are planning a trip on May 1st to New York City. I'd like to invite Principal Mastrangelo and Ms. Erin O'Brien-Mazza to provide further details.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Erin O'Brien-Mazza. I'm the band director at Malden High School. Earlier in this year, the band officers approached me and they asked if we could do a special trip to New York City, specifically because they really wanted to see a Broadway show. And so I said, well, you have so many opportunities to travel with the school anyway. Why do you want to go, with the band? And they said, well, because we've been playing music with the same people since 4th grade. And I thought they really had a really good point there. And so I said, well, why don't you work with me to kind of come up with some details, and then I'll approach Mr. Mastrangelo, which I did. So the PowerPoint that you have is the information that they collected with me, and we worked on that presentation together. So they would like to go on a trip to New York City, mostly to see The Lion King on Broadway. And when I asked why do they think they should be allowed to go on this trip, the details that they gave were, well, we've been serving the Malden community even on days when all of our friends got to sleep in. I said, okay, like what? And they said, well, we've played at every single city parade since 4th grade, 5th grade. And we've been in the rain and in the snow, and our instruments have gotten ruined, and then we had to fix them again from being in the parades. And obviously they do those things because they know it's part of being in a community. We talk about that you use your talents because you're part of the community. But they also get asked to play at lots of other things, like graduation ceremonies, their 8th grade moving up ceremony. They're just constantly being asked to play at different events, and they do it willingly. And so that was kind of what they came to me with. Well, we just want to have something for us, that we can celebrate the end of our time here at Malden in the music program. So I would like to jump ahead, if it's okay, to kind of the details of the trip, just so we can just get that stuff out of the way. Oh, no, it's okay. I'm good. Thank you. After talking with Mr. Mastrangelo, we decided that the date that would be really fitting for the seniors to go would be May 1st. It's a small group of seniors this year. We only have 9 seniors, so it would just be them. It's not taking a massive amount of students out of the classroom. We are going to be leaving early in the morning. I put 4 a.m. Down on there, but I think the earliest bus actually leaves at 5 a.m., so we'd be taking the 5 a.m. bus down to New York, and we would be returning at 11 p.m. For transportation, this is kind of the thing that I know that we would need to discuss a little bit. We were hoping to take a public bus down to New York City just because it's cheaper than to paying for a private charter bus down. The students would be fundraising the money to go, so anywhere where we can save a little bit of money would be really helpful. The bus down, like on a Greyhound bus, is very cheap. It's like $50 for a round-trip ticket, and that's something that they can easily afford or fundraise for. For the finances, they will be fundraising the money. No students will have to pay out of pocket to go. We will be fundraising the money together. And so the Greyhound bus will cost about $50. We would also like to go on a tour of Carnegie Hall while we're there, and that tour is $17 per person. And then the Lion King on Broadway ticket is obviously the most expensive. That's $180 per ticket. But the really neat thing about that is we're actually studying the score already in class, so they've already been learning about the music and just kind of the music business in the Broadway world and how you would play in a pit orchestra and things like that. So it would just kind of be a really neat event for them to be able to attend in May. So I know the big concern is always safety too when I'm taking them out, especially out of state. The really important things to know is I've been with these students since they've been in 9th grade, so I know a lot of their medical histories and medical records better than a lot of people. I also, because we always are going off on band competitions or we're always out of the building. I also have all of their medical records, like from my own personal records. I have permission to call 911 from all of their parents. I even have their vaccination records, their everything that would probably be filed with a nurse I actually have, just because I take them out so many times out of the school building. So I have all of that information. I have permission to call 911 in case of an emergency. And so, yeah, that's
All
what
right.
I have for you guys.
Again, Superintendent, you recommend, I presume?
Yeah, I believe that there's enough of a tie-in here to the curriculum that would be a capstone project. I also, any field trip we go, we need to make sure that we have the most up-to-date medical records from our nursing department. Don't rely on previous ones. Things may have changed in the past, so obviously that protocol will be followed.
Okay, and our role here is to approve. Correct. Okay, so let's, I guess like the last one, let's get it properly before us. Is there a motion to just discuss? So Ms. Bordenaro, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. So now it's properly before us. Let's take some questions. Let's see, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for making this presentation tonight. The one question that I do have, how many chaperones are going to be on this trip?
So I believe the school policy is one chaperone per 10 students. So it would just be myself, but it's very possible to add in another one. I'm not opposed to adding in another chaperone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to see that, Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be great if you could
Okay.
make it like 10 students to 2 chaperones,
Yeah,
so
sure.
extra set of eyes. So that would be great. Yeah.
Something
Yes,
you can do, Mr.
we
Mistrangelo?
talked about opportunities of adding to it if possible. There's obviously a cost is incurred to any person, any chaperone that goes. But I think relative to school policy and relative to Ms. Buzz's connection to the students, they're seniors, they'll all be 18, I believe, at the time of the trip. The timing in the school year, which is just before the seniors get out, just before AP testing, and as Superintendent Terry talked about, excuse me, the tie into the curriculum with 9 students and the relationships that they have, I think it's appropriate. But if we have to look into more, that's an avenue that we could take as well.
Okay, well, I think it's a request, so make the best effort possible. Let's take some other questions. Okay, hearing none, so we have a motion to approve. It's been seconded. Last chance for discussion. Chair hears none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody here opposed? So the ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to our school superintendent.
Sure, thank you. Next, I'd like to, the Linden STEAM Academy STEM teachers, Mr. Christopher Mooney, Ms. Laura Dagelman, recently received a $60,000 grant from Lowe's Charitable and Educational Foundation. I'd like to invite them to the podium to speak on the subject. Both them and Mr. Ruggieri put in time over the summer to apply for this grant. It enriches and increases our STEM experience for our students. The grant will be used to fund the creation of a STEM center / makerspace at the Linden STEAM Academy, which will include a state-of-the-art facility and robotics lab.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all very much for allowing us to present this to you. So in August, Laura and Chris came to me asking me if I would be interested in working on this, or if I would be interested in allowing them to work on this STEM grant. They did all the work. I just said yes. And then, they worked really very hard, very broad field of people that they were competing with for this grant, and so it's wonderful that they were able to get it. We've identified the space for the makerspace. It is a large space that actually used to be a technology room. So we're going to have to do a lot of shifting around, moving around of things in April, buying materials and getting it set up. But we're really excited, and I'm going to turn it over and let them tell you a little bit about it.
All right, great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we feel very fortunate to be here talking about this $60,000 grant. We are very excited at the opportunities it's going to bring for our students. And the application for this grant actually came out of a program that Chris and I worked with here in Malden with Tufts University called Remaking STEM. And we had the opportunity to work with fellow staff members across Malden and middle school and high school students. We spent a week with them in the makerspace at the high school and were very inspired by the way that they interacted in the space. And so Chris and I thought much more seriously about the thought of creating a makerspace at the Linden STEAM Academy. The engineering teacher at the high school, Ashley Freeman, said, well, you should just go and look for grants. And we found the Lowe's grant. So Lowe's, a Fortune 500 home improvement company, has a 50-year legacy of supporting the communities it serves through programs that focus on K-12 public education and community improvement projects. Since 2007, Lowe's and the Lowe's Charitable and Educational Foundation together have contributed nearly $250 million to these efforts. And for more than 2 decades, Lowe's Heroes volunteers have donated their time to make our communities better places to live. With the large toolbox grant that they offered, we were able to take the opportunity to think big when it came to creating a STEM center at the Linden STEAM Academy.
And to give you a better idea of the type of space that we're going to be working with, we have 3 classrooms that we're going to be renovating. The data room, which is the former technology center that Mr. Ruggieri mentioned, will be converted into a makerspace. We'll have a number of different technologies in there that students will have access to, 3D printers, CNC machines, some really, really interesting things for them to work with. The classroom that I'm currently in is going to be converted into a robotics lab, so we're updating equipment, updating furniture, enhancing the space to make it more student-friendly, student-centered. And the classroom that Laura is currently in is going to be converted into a makerspace classroom, sort of to be used as a utility space between those 3 rooms. The other thing I wanted to mention is this is definitely going to be a community effort. We've been really pleasantly surprised with the amount of students and parent feedback that we've gotten already. How can we help with this project? When is this going to be happening? What can we do to get involved? And it's not lost on us that it's going to be a community effort to get this done. It's going to be quite a project over the summer. And we are also having our official check ceremony. That's going to be tomorrow morning at the Linden at 9 o'clock. And we're going to be doing a little bit more of a Q&A there if we want to get involved and get some more information on that.
All right, hats off. Might put you on the budget subcommittee. It's impressive. All right, so our role here tonight, Superintendent, is to accept.
That's correct.
All right, so everybody clear what we're being asked to do? Let's see. Let's take some questions first, then we'll get into maybe doing a formal motion. So let's start with Mr. Froyo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question. What grade will this makerspace be for?
The makerspace will be primarily for the middle school grades, but it will be available to the rest of the school as well. So we're hoping that it will be a space where other teachers, not just STEM teachers, can come down and use that space.
Will it be regularly attended every day during the school day, or is it just going to be like after school?
It would be regularly attended during the school day. We have to work out the particulars on the schedule, but our plan right now is to have that room occupied throughout the school day.
Thank you, Mr. Froyo. Let's hear from Ms. Beardsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank you guys. This is amazing. And these are the 2 that I gave a shout out to the other day. They do a robotics club after school, free of charge for students, and my kids did it, and they're phenomenal. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, any other questions? Hate to be the downer. I got to ask you a few financial questions. Is there a match required on behalf of the city, or is this straight up?
Straight up.
And it's one time?
It's a one-time $60,000, yes.
And when does it have to be spent by?
We technically have 2 years.
Can I just have you speak in the mic, please?
We technically have 2 years to spend the money, but we are looking to primarily get this project up and running by the beginning of the school year next year.
Next year, okay. And then are you prohibited from reapplying down the road? How does that work?
We actually haven't even looked
Broached
into that.
that,
I think
okay.
we're trying to get through the first one first.
All right, I'm already thinking about the next 60.
I know.
Yeah.
I know that it is 1 per school at a time.
One per school at a time, okay. All right, very good. All right, so I think you've had your questions answered. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Froyo, seconded by Ms. Spatafora. All right, so this is a motion to accept the grant and get the work going. Everybody clear? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Keep us posted.
Good. Again, I'd like to thank Ms. Dagelman and Mr. Mooney for their initiative in this and seeing this through. It's been a terrific addition to the Malden Public Schools and the Linden STEAM Academy. Carrying on with my report, this weekend 17 Malden students had 25 pieces of art accepted into the Scholastic Art Awards competition. Our students received 4 gold keys, 9 silver key awards, and 12 honorable mentions. It was a phenomenal showing. We outpaced our neighboring communities, doubled their recognition. Students who received the 4 gold keys are automatically entered into the national competition, and they are Sunyanya Chen, Kathleen Hung, Huyen Nguyen, and Samantha Tang. The gold key winners will have their work exhibited, and it's tentatively scheduled for March at Tufts University after a ceremony acknowledging the gold and silver key recipients. The 9 silver key recipients are Ai Huang, who received 2 silver keys, Razmi Key, Sammy Lee, Maya Will Morse, Michelle Nee, Jason Ong, Kevin Southen Porchesit, I hope I didn't mispronounce that, and Thomas Tran. Our honorable mentions were received by Kemnelli Aristil, Paolina Formari, who received 4 mentions, Jay Hui, Sammy Lee, who received 3 mentions, Renata Tomaz, Thomas Tran, and Ava Tu. So very proud. Malden High School students had more pieces accepted into the surrounding districts combined. Melrose had 8, Medford 2, Everett 9, Mystic Valley 2. So we doubled the combined efforts. We had more than the combined efforts of 3 districts and a charter school. So it's a big shout out to the Malden High School Art Department and our teachers, Ms. Seeger, Ms. Mullane, and Mr. Longo. Thank you for your guidance and mentoring of our future artists here. We're very proud of our arts community in Malden. We feel it's another way in which our students demonstrate their talents outside of the academic testing. I think it shows to our commitment and our stewardship of that discipline. Some sports updates, and I'll be brief. The high school swim team placed 3rd out of the 13 NEC league meets this year. We finished 2nd just behind Marblehead. We had a couple first-place finishes from Kevin Ochoa and super sophomore David Lombardi. The indoor track team placed 6th out of the 16 in the league championships. Senior Shatea Smith was 1st in the women's shot put, breaking the Malden High School record with a throw of 37 feet. That's a terrific accomplishment. Shatea is personally one of my all-time favorite students. She's a remarkable young lady who continues to overcome obstacles and amaze everyone. Junior Omar Asuse finished 1st in the boys 1 mile, and Junior Yusuf Lakiki finished 1st in the 1,000 meters. Our Malden High School Gymnastics was honored for the League Sportsmanship Award this year. Malden High School Wrestling sophomore Ved Gray was selected as a League All-Star. Sophomore female wrestler Johanny Tostes Costa posted a 6-2 record and will compete in this year's first MIA All-Girls Wrestling State Tournament. The future looks bright in basketball as our boys' middle school basketball team is 12-0. The Golden Tornado Comedy Fundraiser Night was a huge success. 130 guests attended, raised $4,800 for future scholarships. The Golden Tornado Scholarship Fund has been very generous to Malden High School student athletes. As I mentioned, I'm pleased to announce publicly that Michael Wood will be joining the Malden Public Schools on February 15th as the new Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. He's currently the Director of Student Services and Interim Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment for the Leicester Public Schools. Previously, he was the Superintendent of Schools in Massachusetts and Maine, as well as the Director of Special Education, a pre-K-8 principal, an assistant principal, and a teacher in Maine. He's earned his CAGS degree in special education from Boston University, a master's in educational leadership from the University of Southern Maine. He was a member of the Foundational Budget Review Commission that is spearheading the effort along with the school and civic leaders to address the inequity in funding for economically disadvantaged students and students with special needs. He has experience building programs and services for students with special needs to be fully included into the school with a broader school community, which will be a great asset to our school district. He'll be joining us on February 15th and looks forward to meeting our parents, students, staff, and teachers in the coming weeks and months. And we will have Mr. Wood here at the March meeting. Through a grant that the district received through the Barr Foundation led by Dr. Chase, the Malden Public Schools tomorrow will be sending 5 administrators to San Diego to see High-Tech High School. The Director of Special Education, or we'll have a representative from Special Education, Liz Smith, our English Learner Education Director, Dr. Yvonne Adara, our STEM Director, Dr. Doug Dias, our Humanities Director, Sean Walsh, and our Instructional Technology Director, Natalia Brennan, will be heading out tomorrow morning to San Diego to see High-Tech High School. They'll observe and engage with students, teachers, and school leaders there, and we look forward to what they bring back, to what we can incorporate to help with student engagement, to improve with positive impact our outcomes, both in the transition from 8th grade, but also high school and graduation and beyond. Tuesday, January 8th was the Project Equity Forum. As we had mentioned at our last school committee meeting, we had over 350 people attend the Jenkins Auditorium. It was covered on cable television. It's also posted on the website. We were one of the 3 sites across the state hosting this event. The panel was comprised of some school superintendents, mayors, and school business managers. It was a rousing success. We had the director of the Massachusetts School Superintendents, Tom Scott. Dr. Scott was more than impressed with both the turnout, the quality of the questions, and also us as hosting. We did a great job, and we look forward to seeing how this progresses down the road. The City of Malden has been partnering, as many of you are aware, with Honeywell. They're looking at energy usage and conservation. As part of their work, they will be changing over 31,000 lights to LED lights throughout the city. The school receiving the vast majority of these. They've already started replacing lights in the Forestdale School. And to be cliche, it is absolutely night and day compared to what it was before. The lighting is phenomenal. And I think it's about a 15-month project, Mr. Mayor. 14 months. So they're moving quickly. They're doing the work after school, beginning at 3 o'clock, and they're rolling quite well. It takes a couple hours to do each room. They're making great progress. City of Malden live event was on January 17th. I was part of that panel as well. The following students and staff, on last week at the Department of Education, January 29th, Commissioner Riley hosted a luncheon for our people that were in the commercial that has been airing on the airwaves and local television across Massachusetts. The committee, Amazing Teachers Salute that the Department of Ed has undertaken. We had 3 of our students. That would be 8th grader Maritza Ramos Perez. She's the basketball player that you see in the commercial. Jessica Rufo, 7th grader, is the dancer, and 6th grader Jordani Doyen is the student in the classroom. Our lead teacher, the one that they are saluting in that, is Dehua Shen. She's a teacher at the BB School. Alan Biskin is another teacher that they cut to during that. Colleen Clifford was edited out of the commercial, but we invited her in, and Michelle Corbett, who graciously donated her classroom to be used, but was unfortunately edited out too. Sometimes those things happen, but it's a terrific commercial. I think it really captures the spirit of what educators do. They go above and beyond. That's something that we want to continue to salute, and I think that they captured that spirit quite nicely, and I think it's a theme that this commissioner has brought in. I think that Commissioner Riley has never wavered in his support for what happens in the classrooms every day with our educators, and I think he celebrated them, and I think that that will be part of what his administration is, about acknowledging some of the great work that we do. The job of an educator, I think, has become exponentially more difficult than it was in prior years, and having that, I think, public support from the top educator in the state really goes a long way. Saturday was the first 5-district partnership education camp at Malden High School. Our instructional technology director, Ms. Natalia Brennan, was instrumental in coordinating this, along with Assistant Superintendent Dr. Chase. We also had a couple of our educators present. Ms. Christina Terranova and our STEM director, Dr. Doug Dias, did a fabulous job of presenting. They received rave reviews about their session, and Ms. Brennan was the organizing force of the day, pulling together all the logistics and technical pieces. Despite 9-degree temperatures in the morning, we had a great turnout there. We celebrated Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, on January 26th at Malden High School. There were lion dances and performances, calligraphy demonstrations, workshops, and celebrating Chinese culture, as well as food in the cafeteria. Malden Reed's book selection this year is The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane by Lisa C. We were, I think, the mayor and myself were in the front row, and the dragon dance came out, and I think that we both received good luck. I think I received oranges, the mayor received the pig in the year of the pig, so we're hoping that that bodes well for the budget process as well. Is it, if the number of oranges I receive, is there any correlation to that? On October 1st, the school committee passed a resolution in support of full funding for public schools and resolution to support increased funding for public higher education. We had some of our legislated co-sponsor this. That would be State Representative Steve Altrino and State Representative Paul Broder have signed on as co-sponsors of the Promise Act and the Cherish Act. And if passed, will implement the recommendations of the Foundational Budget Review Commission to fully fund public education in K-12. Also, Senator Lewis has signed on the Senate side for both of those as well. On January 15th, the BB students had an amazing opportunity and experience when the Boston Celtics General Electric Mobile STEM Lab came along with Boston Celtics star Al Horford. As in addition to Al Horford, retired Boston Celtics star Dana Barros came. It was an amazing experience. I can't really describe the electricity that was in the room. Al Horford was as great and gracious and humble of a professional athlete as I've seen in my life. I think he is an incredible role model for our kids. He was truly interested in them as people, what they were doing with the STEM work. Those of you who don't know, Al Horford was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, came to the United States for high school basketball, went on to college down to the University of Florida, and has been in the, the NBA for over 10 years. Very insightful, thoughtful man who is very comfortable with kids, as well as Dana Barros. Mr. Barros shared his own upbringing, being the son of high school students. His parents were 16. Education was a priority. Mr. Barros is a man of Cape Verdean descent, was an honor roll student all through high school, received a scholarship to Boston College, and then played 10 years in the NBA, making the All-Star team once. I thought they both delivered great messages for our kids. The GE Foundation and the Celtics created the brilliant Career Play Mobile STEM Lab, which increases STEM experiences and education to our Massachusetts middle school students. It's equipped with STEM resources, career planning, essential skills training to help inspire students. One of the people that was on there was Dr. David Barish. He's the Chief Medical Officer of the GE Foundation, who was present for the January 15th visit. They were really impressed with the way we welcomed them, the way our students and community accepted them. This week they start at the Forestdale School, but they were also just amazed at what our school represented, which was really a slice of the world, the diversity and the overall harmony, but also the way our kids were so curious and accepting of education. I think it spoke very well. We were very fortunate. There were 9 schools selected for the GE Celtic STEM Lab, and we have 2 of them here in Malden. So hats off to both the BB and the Forestdale. We're looking forward to great things to continue to come from this. The STEM showcase at Linden School was on the 17th. And getting back to the Lowe's grant, I think you'll see we had kindergarten kids presenting in that, and I could see that Makerspace is going to be implemented in the near future, being something that would augment and be used by even our youngest learners down at the Linden. Tomorrow, the Malden and Medford Elks Lodge will be presenting dictionaries to all of our third grade students in the Malden Public Schools, and we'd like to publicly thank the Elks for their generosity. This is a great thing that they've done every year. Also tomorrow evening, the community forum will be held at Parent Academy. It's one of our Title I programs down at the Salemwood School. We have another community forum on vaping. It'll be at 6 o'clock down at the Salemwood School in the cafeteria. It's really geared for families 4th grade and up, but we will have childcare available for the kids. Rainforest reptiles will be there for the entertainment and free pizza, and every student will leave with a book. So it's a great opportunity to learn more about what I believe, and the mayor and I have been very active in advocating to make vaping something that we're more aware of. It's not a safer alternative to smoking, and it's nothing that we should be encouraging our kids to do, but our numbers, I think, are alarming in the number of students, young people that are engaging in it. So we are looking to bring as much awareness to it as we did smoking and alcohol and drug abuse, because it is a growing concern. Also this week, we have a number of our parent-teacher conferences. Listen to your Connect Ed calls. Follow me on Twitter at Malden Public. I've been posting these throughout the weekend and will continue during the week. And just the last, I believe we are in Lunar New Year. Happy New Year to all of our families, students, and staff who are observing this event. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll take some questions from the members. Any questions of our superintendent? Just if I might, from the chair, working my way back. The Linden's showcase, isn't that typically done in April or May, or is this different?
This was a different one. There's an entire school one that's done usually in June. This was just sort of an ongoing one where they took on different projects at different grade levels.
Okay. The trip out west, the site visit, that's all covered by the grant?
Yes. Yep. The Bar Foundation grant will be covering that, all expenses, yes.
Okay. And then the art that you mentioned at the outset, I assume that will be featured in the Blue and Gold Gallery in the spring?
I think once these works are released from where they'll be shown, like the gold medal ones, I believe are going to be displayed at Tufts University. Yeah, we typically would. I think sometimes they even have the citations of the awards attached to them. So I think it just shows the community the quality of the work.
Got it. So no other questions. Thank you, Superintendent.
You're welcome.
We'll now go to item 5, which I don't see anything under motions and resolutions. So we're now at item number 6. This is personal privilege. So what the game plan will be is we'll entertain points of personal privilege. We'll then entertain a motion for executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations and updates. Now, for the public, we may come back out and act on some of those items, or we may not, depending on how the session goes. We will then move adjournment of the school committee. Once again, we'll be back here Monday, March 4th at 6 p.m. So if there's no questions, let's go right to left this time. Let's start with Ms. Beardsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some from the Salemwood. Tuesday, February 5th, Malden Medford Elks will be stopping to visit with grade 3 students and handing out dictionary to each of the 3rd grade students. Tuesday, February 5th, Title I is offering a workshop for families on vaping. We were just talking about babysitting's available. Parent, guardian, teacher conferences is scheduled for Thursday, February 7th from 6 to 7:30. Last conference for the year. Interpreters will be on hand to assist with translations. Salem will be celebrating the 100 Days of School, Friday, February 8th. Lots of fun events planned. Valentine Friendship Fundraiser, the week of February 11th. All proceeds go to the PTO. Week of the 11th to the 14th. Monday is Twin Day. Tuesday is Sports Theme Day. Wednesday, Wacky Tacky Day. And Thursday, Wear Red in celebration of Valentine Friendship Day. And from the Forestdale, February 5th, there's a PTO board meeting at 6 p.m. Also, on February 6th, parent-teacher conferences from 6 to 7:30. February 7th, Washington Trip fundraiser at the Texas Roadhouse in Everett, 5 to 7. Portion of it will be donated to the Washington Trip. There will also be a raffle table. Come join. February 8th, Family Friday, Whiz Kids presentation. Pizza at 6, presentation at 6:30 in the auditorium. February 12th, PTO meeting, 6 p.m. in the library. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Malden Rec and especially the coaches and high school volunteers. I'm so impressed with their dedication and love they show to students. We participated this winter in wrestling and basketball, and they were both outstanding. And then another call for volunteers for Malden's Warming Center. It's a great place. Doing my first 1 to 6 a.m. shift this week. Call for runners. If anyone wants to be in the first annual Malden Half Marathon / 5-mile race, Sunday, March 10th, there's signing up. I'm doing that. There is a running group, RC Malden, started by Forestdale's own Joe LeBlanc, that trains at Hugh O'Neill's, leaving Wednesdays at 6 and Bikini Saturdays at 8 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Beardsley. Ms. Spatafor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Title I Math Workshop for parents will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, February 5th at 8:15, and this is for BB. The next BBPTO meeting will be held Wednesday, February 27th, 6:30 p.m. The grades 5 through 8 band concert will be held Tuesday, February 12th at 1 p.m. And the BB Parent Teacher Conference will be Thursday, March 7th, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I will remind you again at the March 4th meeting. Tomorrow night, Malden Special Education Parent Advisory Council, Malden CPAC, will be hosting a discussion on community-based mental health services. This starts at 6:30 p.m. at the Forestdale School Cafeteria. And lastly, just want to thank the BBPTO for asking me to chaperone the grades 5-6 winter dance. The students were absolutely exceptionally behaved, have said they'd love to have another one, hint, hint. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Mr. Froyo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These announcements for the Linden STEAM Academy. On February 12th, there's a parent-teacher night, 6 o'clock till 7:30. On the 13th, the Linden STEAM Academy Governing Board will meet at 5:45 in the library. On the 15th, it's a professional day. There will be no school for students. And the 18th starts the February vacation, February 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froyo. Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So coming out of the BB School, the next BB School fundraiser is this coming Thursday night, February 7th at the Texas Roadhouse over in Everett. It's from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. You can actually print out the flyer on the BBPTO Facebook page, as well as you can get it at the school, I believe. And the raffles will be from 5 o'clock until 7 p.m. at the Texas Roadhouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ELC will be having their Parent-Teacher Guardian Night on Wednesday the 6th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. On Wednesday and Thursday, which is the 13th and 14th of February, it's going to be Friendship Days. Students and staff will wear red and have activities related to developing friendships. And the week of February 25th is Dr. Seuss Week, and they're going to have activities planned the whole week for the children. At the Ferryway, tomorrow's PTO meeting is at 3:30 in the afternoon in the library. On Thursday, as was mentioned earlier, is Parent-Teacher Conference Night. The Ferryway PTO is from 6 to 7:30 having a bake sale in conjunction with the parent-teacher meetings. On Tuesday, the 12th, will be a Title I breakfast, where again, math will be the topic. And that is from, they didn't give me a time. 8:45, I'm sorry. On Friday the 25th, again, there's no school. And on the 25th, box tops for education ends, so everything has to be in that Monday, the 25th, to qualify. And last but not least, there's only 25 days till spring, kids, so hang in there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. All right, thank you. So now we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations. Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. Froyo. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Bornaro? Yes. Mr. Drummy?
Yes.
Mr. Froyo?
Yes.
Mr. Albino?
Yes.
Ms. Leon? Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Pettiford?
Yes.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes. Okay, we will now go into executive session.